Okay, so today we're taking a look at the Weebill 3S, a brand new gimbal from Zhiyun Tech with some pretty cool features. Let's talk about it. So for the past few years, I have been using the Zhiyun Tech Crane 2S, which has been a phenomenal gimbal for me. It hasn't failed me yet. It's been fantastic. Curious, what gimbal have you been using or been looking at? Put that down in the comments and let me know. I'm really curious. Always curious to see what gear people are using and love and maybe not love. All right, let's talk about this Weebill 3S. Weebill is also kind of a funny, weird name. Okay, so when Zhiyun Tech reached out to me about testing out their new gimbal, yeah, send me that, I'll do a video, let's test this thing out. It's got some really, really cool features on it. It's got a built-in light. It has a wrist rest, which really helps alleviate the weight of the gimbal. It switches easily between landscape and portrait mode. And another cool feature is it has a Bluetooth shutter release. And what drew me to this gimbal is it's a little bit smaller and quite a bit lighter than the Crane 2S, but it still fits my Canon R5 along with several other mirrorless cameras. Now there's one little caveat with this. If you have larger lenses, you're gonna be a little bit more limited. For example, my 24-70 2.8 lens, it does fit, it works with it, but I can't do real low angles with it because this hits on the back. Other than that, it's been working great with my 16-35, my 50, and that's pretty much my whole lens range. I'm not gonna stick my 70-200. That's just not a good idea. Why would you do that? I'm not sure why you would do that. Anyway, compatible with many cameras. Next cool feature I found is the light that's built into it. Obviously I have it off right now, but it's got a built-in light right here. Let me go ahead and turn this on for you. Adjustable brightness from 10% to 100% in 10% increments. And adjustable color temperature from 2600 Kelvin to 5400 Kelvin. So not a huge range with the light, but it does have some range, which can be helpful. Now, one downside of this light, kind of where it's set versus say the different type of lens you may have on there with my 16-35, it will cast a bit of shadow. If I have my 50mm on here, it's not that big of a deal. That's gonna be a lot more compact. It's not really gonna cast a shadow. Not too worried about that, but something to be aware of when thinking about how useful this light may actually be. You may still wanna mount a light a little bit higher to cast less of a shadow. So I did a quick test with the built-in light to see how long it was gonna last. I had it on at 100% just sitting here on the table, so I wasn't moving around, I wasn't using more battery power doing that. And given my camera is fairly well balanced on here, results may vary, but I did have the light on for a little over 2 hours at 100%, and there was still 1 bar of battery left, so you might get an hour and a half to 2 hours while you're out actually using the gimbal. And again, that may vary depending on how well your camera is balanced and how much you're moving around. So a couple hours of battery life with the light, 100%, not bad. I'll take it. Another really cool feature with this is this wrist rest they put on here. So when you grab the gimbal, you don't have to just hold the weight right here on your arm. You can actually push this into your wrist a little bit and just kind of let that weight sit there. You don't have to grip the gimbal quite as hard. I'm really looking forward to trying this out on longer jobs. I think that's gonna alleviate quite a bit of stress on my arm because after shooting 4 hours with a gimbal, man, my arm gets pretty sore. Another thing about this wrist rest is it is adjustable, so you can adjust it up and down to fit whatever's comfortable for you. You just have to play with it a little bit and see what works for you. Now, you may have noticed the other handle back here. This does come with the Weebill 3S as well. It's in the package deal. I don't think the base model comes with this one. Just check the specs on which one comes with what. But this is pretty handy. It's actually adjustable, it packs away a little bit. And that is also an adjustable as well. So you can kick this out to the side a little bit. Say it interferes with the monitor, push it down a little bit. You can have more of a side to side, or you can spin this more towards the back so you're more front and back. So in terms of this handle, it's a pretty low profile, fairly adjustable, and I'm happy to have that. So another cool feature with this is you can do a Bluetooth remote shutter, so you don't have to have this USB-C cable wound around from one side of the camera to the other side of the gimbal. I have not been able to get it to work yet. It connects, which was a little bit tricky of a process, but it did finally connect, but it doesn't work. So maybe that is just gonna come in a new update. Perhaps I need to update the firmware on my camera, but just make sure you keep the little USB cable. Mine's USB-C to USB-C. Works just fine. So the Bluetooth shutter, great concept. I'm gonna love when it works. But until then, USB-C cable for me. One feature I really love, I didn't mention this in the beginning, is there's a little front wheel. I noticed when I'm filming with the gimbal a lot, I ended up like cropping people right here, and I have to like either use the joystick and bring the camera up a little bit real quick or just raise the thing up. But this got a little front wheel. You can set it to do different functions, but I've set mine to just go up and down real quick. So pretty handy, pretty handy. Still have the double tap trigger on the front to reset the camera to 0. So if you're way over here and you need to point it forward real quick, double tap, camera whips back to the 0 normal position. Real handy. And the last feature that I probably won't use with this, but just so you can see it, it's pretty easy to switch between landscape and portrait mode. They made this really super simple. Again, I don't think I'm gonna use it, so great feature for not me. So the things I am really liking about this gimbal so far is its weight, its size. It's nice and compact, and it's lighter than my Crane 2S. Love that Crane 2S, it's great. It has not failed me or even let me down once yet. I mean, there's always time, there's still time. But this thing is so much smaller, lighter, and more comfortable to hold. This may be my new go-to, with an exception. I'll get to that in my dislikes. Other things I like, this built-in lights, I think it's gonna come in really, really handy. And then the front wheel for the quick adjustments up and down. I mean, that's cool. That's cool. Things I don't like about it so far, I don't love that my 24-70 doesn't quite balance with full range in the gimbal. That's kind of a letdown, but we'll see how much I actually use the 24-70, which I actually use it a lot with my Crane 2S, so maybe a little bit of a letdown, but we'll see how it works out on this one. Another big dislike is there's no quick battery change. So if your battery dies, like, you have to stop using this, you have to go plug it in. The good news is it charges rather quickly on a USB-C, but if your battery's dead, like, that's it. You gotta wait for the battery to charge. And the other big downside to this is, like I said earlier, if you're using a bigger lens with the light, you're gonna get a bit of shadow from the light with the lens in the way. And the other thing, which I think might just be a software update, is I have not been able to use the Bluetooth shutter with this. Not a big deal. Honestly, not a big deal. USB-C to USB-C into the gimbal, everything works just fine. So is this gimbal worth it? Maybe if you've got like an older gimbal that's super heavy, this might be worth taking a look at to upgrade. If you don't have a gimbal and you have a smaller camera and maybe some smaller lenses, this is fantastic. They claim it's gonna work with the DSLR. I seriously have my doubts about that. This works really well with my R5, with the exception of having my 24-70 on there. It's just more limited motion. It still works with it, but it's more limited. 16-35, no issue. 50mm, no issue. It's been great. So if you've got an even smaller camera than this setup, just go for it. This is a great little setup. Like, it's really, really small, really compact. Definitely smaller than my Crane 2S was. So yeah, I think this gimbal is worth it if you have a gimbal that's really old and it's just time to upgrade it. If you have a model below this or the Crane 2S, maybe it's worth it for you. That's your call. You have to make that for yourself. If you don't have a gimbal, go with this one. It's pretty awesome. All right, guys, well, that's what I have for you today. That's the Weebill 3S. Pretty awesome little gimbal. Let me know what you think. If you have any questions, put that down in the comments. I'll do my best to answer you in a timely manner. Until then, until next time, I don't have a catchphrase. That's it. I'll see you next time. Bye.